everybody. My name is Nhan. I'm with Cellular Labs. I have sold over $80 million on Amazon, and today I'm going to be talking about why at Cellular Labs we switched from the traditional frameworks of React to the Retool framework. If you like this content, click subscribe and like for insights into Amazon selling. Today I wanted to introduce Michael also and James are developers who are joining for a discussion on the Retool framework. Say hello.
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 All right. Um, all right. Previously, all our apps were made on the React PHP language, and that was how traditional apps were developed. So I wanted to show a page of that that looks something like this, and the front end looks kind of like that. That's our old Retool pages. And how that works in the back end is you have a couple layers for the traditional frameworks. You have the database layer, which is where all the database or the data is stored, and basically most of the internet, 99% of the internet is stored in this database system, a relational database system, for example, like MySQL or SQL Server. And then you have another layer on top, which is the business logic, which can be popular languages like PHP, Java, or C Sharp. And then the front end on top of that, so that's where all the business logics happens and all the recurring processes happens. And then the front end will require a language, which is JavaScript and TypeScript. And then on top of that, you have a front end framework, which is Angular and React are some popular ones. This page being the React page. If you don't know what it is, it's just kind of technical jargon, but basically every time the data goes from MySQL Server to a business logic layer, it has to be encapsulated. It means that the data have to be wrapped in a layer of the way that the language works, and then every time it changes this layer, it has to move back and forth, and it gets wrapped again. It gets unwrapped and wrapped again, and then the front end framework kind of does all the work to display it. This system is the more secure and worked previously, but it was really slow because of all the business logic and all the languages you have to learn every time you want to make a change. So I wanted to show you the Retool framework. So we've been working with the Retool framework from this past. How long has been working on it, James?
Over a year. We've been
Over a
working
year? Yeah.
on Retool.
So we discovered a Retool that we wanted to develop software faster. And so in Retool, you do have the database system, which is the same as the traditional frameworks. But the Refree framework replaces the business logic, the front end framework, and the front end logic. So all three layers here gets replaced by the Retool. And so you have three languages, like for example, the other one was PHP or Java that we had, and then PHP, TypeScript, and Angular or React. And you have to learn those three languages, which is why we replace them because it's a drag and drop GUI and it makes the development faster, and also has components that leaves visual consistency. So I wanted to shift it over to James. James, can you show us how this Retool framework like can speed up development significantly by going from the database layer to the having a table of data?
Sure. So here I'm displaying just an empty Retool app. The only thing that I've pre-set up here is a query that pulls from the database. If you
Are
recognize
you able
SQL, you
to
might.
zoom in the page more because it's kind of a little
Sure.
small for me? Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Perfect. So you may recognize here for our technical users may recognize this as SQL. In fact, this is MySQL. But that's the only thing that I have preset up here is a query that produces this data output here at the bottom, which is just straight up pulling from the database. So in order to format this into something human usable in Retool, all I'm going to do is come over to my add a table. The Retool is smart enough to say, hey, you made a query, you made a table, you probably want that data in that table. So I didn't even have to point it to this query. It just automatically pointed the data to the table to that data. And
Yeah.
then Retool goes ahead and it's okay at figuring out what columns is everything. You can see here some of the stuff may not look exactly right. For example, I notice here that this is the sale price, which should be a currency. So if I go to my table, again, I didn't set any of this up. Retool set all this up automatically. I can pop into my sale price, decide that this is a currency, and there you go. Just by a couple mouse clicks, I have all of the table or all the data displaying here, and I've even started customizing some of the columns.
Yeah. So I want to highlight for those who may not know, like this would have taken the traditional framework hours and hours, probably a couple days worth of work just to do what James just did in a couple of clicks there. So Retool does a lot of the plumbing for us. It allows us to make changes so much faster. Go ahead, continue, James.
Oh yeah, basically, like Non said, it Retool allows us to just run so much faster because the next step would just be to come in here and start formatting this to drop some columns and stuff like that. Um, but I also wanted to highlight that you can see that there's some styling here that is pre-built, which of course you can also handle on in React or Angular or whatever you're doing. But um, basically, we have some pre-built styling that's being applied to these tables, but it's all working out of the box, which is super nice.
Oh, yeah, the drag and drop itself, it shows the 9729 results at the bottom there. That normally would have to be hard coded in there, or you have to build that plumbing yourself. And then
Yes,
a couple
and
of those bottom right, what do you have there?
yes, a couple features that Retool adds as well is this filter option. So basically, any of these columns that you have here, you can say, hey, I want ASIN that has, I don't know, 102 in it. Boom, there you go. The filtering is all built in, and you can pick any column. You have all sorts of operations here. Includes, does not include, is. It changes slightly if instead we're comparing a number, you'll have some kind of comparisons that you might expect for numbers. Um, and you can even, stack these. You can do all sorts of things. You can and or all sorts of logic that you can put on these filters. Beyond that, we have a download option, which just downloads into an Excel file, as you can see there. And then a refresh option, which just refires the query and lets you update all your data. But all this is available out of the box. We didn't custom build any of this stuff, but you can go in and add custom buttons if you'd like. But all the stuff that you see here so far has just been straight up out of the box.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, James, for doing that, showing us that demo for Retool. Michael, I wanted to shift over to you that you've been relatively a new developer coming on and learning the MySQL and then React. Like, what's been your experience? And you've been working with Retool for couple for about a year now, right? And what have been your experience working with the Retool framework versus what you're learning from the old traditional framework?
Yeah, that relatively news about right. I basically started from the ground up with no formal education whatsoever. James has been training me, and from day one with Retool, we were building something. Whereas the probably 6 months beforehand, where we were doing a lot of coursework, learning the basics, the SQL, the JavaScript, TypeScript, all those things, it was a lot harder then, and it was just a breath of fresh air. You get into Retool, and I go, wait, I can just drag and drop this thing in here, and it works. No, that can't be right, but it is, and it's working.
Yeah,
And just the entire like the HTML and CSS of it, which is really where I focus on, is the front end, is so much faster and easier. Like we can build an app from nothing within a couple weeks, whereas from what I've been told about how long that would take before, I'd be like, well, this would take a full team, not just two people, a much longer time to build up in these older
that's right.
languages. So yeah, the
Right.
the retool has really made it like a hands-on grab and go situation.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Michael, for sharing your experience there. So I would say the speed of development is like 2 to 5 times faster, sometimes 10 times faster, with the retool versus the traditional framework, and also it simplifies the code base. So and then also, just as Michael has described, the speed of training up a brand new team member to brand new developer to get to usable code is so much faster because you're not having to learn as many languages as frameworks and things like that. So this has been revolutionary for us. And so the other thing James brought up that the a highlight of the retool that is not available and that were very difficult in other in the old traditional framework is the ability to connect to multiple databases. Is that James?
Yes. So if you see here, we've already seen that I've added this MySQL query here. But if I go ahead and add a different resource, you can see this is SQL. So we have a SQL Server query next to a MySQL query, and we can go ahead and just select some data here. So I'll go ahead and just select an amount of data here. This should give us back a result. And then once that's in there, I'm going to go ahead and grab another table and slap it in here. And again, Retool has been smart enough to say, hey, you added a new query and you made a new table. Those things are probably related. So it automatically found this query that I just made. And you can see here that in just a matter of seconds, I'm displaying data from one is a MySQL query, the other one is SQL Server, and they are perfectly happy coexisting side by side. You can also go get fancy with it and start combining these and take it a step further.
Yeah.
But clearly here you can see that just with a matter of clicks, I have data from two different databases
Well,
side by
and
side
then can you
existing
show
together.
yeah, can you show us the just a quick drag the action button there? How easy it is to add an action button and then uh, like you don't have to write the code, but just to show visually that you can just
Oh,
drag
like
and drop that action button onto the yep, go ahead and drag that over. Yeah, so you have a button that you can tie a particular if you know how to write code JavaScript code in there. You can manipulate the data, display it, filter it, and things like that really easily in there. So that that's basically anything else you guys want to highlight before we end this?
Oh, I just wanted to point out that if you do happen to like HTML customization and CSS stuff, Retool also allows you to do that. If you wanted to, you can make your custom components and drop down and get as fancy as you like with that stuff. So you're not just limited to what they offer you out of the box.
Yep. So to kind of go back to Seller Labs, how we've been able to, it does, there is a learning curve with Retool though, right? Because it is a completely new framework and you gotta connect the databases and things like user management, things like that. But once you get it working, it is pretty powerful because we've been able to create charts, we've been able to tables, create tabs like this that loads the data only when we click it. And all these are built on the Retool framework and our ability to go in there and make edits and changes when customer requests, like customer requested us to make this comparison table, it was much faster to be able to go in there and create this table than if we just traditional did it, the traditional framework way. So I wanted to end the video today that highlight why we switched to the Retool framework. It's mostly speed of development, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's about the customers being able to get features because we'll be able to make changes so much faster that we can experiment in customers' requests. We can try this, try that, and move things around that we would not have been able to because of the costs, time costs that traditional framework did. So after about a year and a half of working with Retool, we're really glad we made that switch, and we're going to be doubling down on that going forward. So that's it. Have a great day from Seller Lab. See you guys.